Okay, it's more positive than negative. Okay, let's quickly do a little poll on that. Does everybody understand what I mean? 3, 2, 1. Everybody get it? Yes? No? Okay, seems like everybody gets it. Okay, so obviously the joy outweighs the negative. And then it says, for each is born with such a throat as thanks his God with every note. Okay, so throat and note in this case refers to what? The birds. I'm looking for words starting with S, S-O, S-O-N, S-O-N, song, right? Singing. Okay. Yes, I don't like magpies either, right? Who actually likes magpies? I don't really like Australian birds. Okay, like ibises and magpies and whatnot. Right? I don't really like them. Comment down below who agrees, right? That they don't really like. They all look a bit scary. If you think about all the Australian birds, right? Ibises, magpies, and emus, all very very scary birds, right? I would be shocked if I saw an emu. Like imagine like you wake up and there's an emu in front of you. Like that'd be extremely frightening, right? Anyway, okay, but I just don't like birds in general, right? I don't really see any like nice looking birds. Anyway, let's move on. So here we have throat, note, song, joy, and basically here it's just saying that there is no perfect bird. Okay, there is no perfect bird. No man nor bird is perfect, right? So nothing's perfect. Okay, everybody clear? So nothing is perfect. Okay. So everybody clear on all of that. So what we're going to do now is we're going to very, very quickly go through a breakdown of all of these things. So first off, we talk about personification. Okay, you guys understand when we give human traits to non-human things, typically we're elevating. Everybody write that down. Hashtag elevate. Okay, hashtag elevate. All right. We're generally elevating them and we're trying to instill in them some kind of emotion. Okay, in this case, obviously, it's just that they're nonchalant, they don't care, they're superior to other people. Here, we also notice in most poems that there is a tonal shift. Okay, so it goes from nonchalant and wise to greedy eyes to song of grace. Okay, so there's actually 3 distinct emotions. At the beginning, it's the emotion that it's just compliments. Okay, to suddenly a moment of chaos, and then in the end, overall, they're pretty good creatures, right? Pretty good creatures. That's the idea, right? That's tonal shift. Structure and form is very important here as well. So if you guys notice, we have 4 lines here, then we have another 4 lines, and then we have 6 lines. Okay? So when we look at the length of anything, right? Let me quickly write this down. When we have short, snappy sentences, what emotion does that convey? Comment down below, guys. Does it convey like what kind of emotion? Short, snappy sentences convey fright, anxiety, typically nervousness, and like a negative emotion. Okay, we have long sentences or long lines. That is a lot more like contained, controlled, and generally more mellow / happy. It's generally more positive, right? When we have long sentences. Does that make sense? So here, if we notice, we have generally pretty short sentences at the very start, okay? And then towards the end, we have very, very long sentences, okay? In the first 2 stanzas, we have pretty short sentences. In the last stanza, we have a relatively long sentence. The other thing is, does anybody know what enjambment is? Comment down below if you guys know what enjambment is. Let's quickly do a poll, actually. A for yes, I know, Steve, what enjambment is. B, no, I don't really know what it is. 3, 2, 1. Okay, so a lot of you guys don't know. Enjambment is just when you have one sentence that is spread over multiple lines. Okay, one sentence spread over multiple lines. Right? So for example here, but no man that I have heard throws back his head in such a song of grace and praise. No man nor bird, the greed is brief. Okay, so basically that sentence ends at the end of the 3rd line, but there's enjambment there, and that obviously one sentence is being spread over multiple lines. Everybody clear? Okay, so just be aware of that, yeah? Now, what does enjambment do? Typically, it elongates a sentence, okay? It elongates, it makes things longer. So elongate, longer. Okay, elongate just means makes something longer. right? By the way, everybody should be using vocabulary. Okay, if you're not using vocabulary already, please use vocabulary. There's no reason why you shouldn't be using vocabulary to benefit your learning. And we're going to talk about all the apps at the end of today. Okay, there's so many Lees. Okay, what I'm going to do at the end of today, I'm going to show you guys how to use all the apps and how to go literally on another level. Okay, guys, like actually, let's quickly do a poll. Does anybody actually want to get into a top 10? I know I've kind of asked you guys this question beforehand, but does everybody want to get into top 10 selective? Yes or no? 3, 2, 1. Seems like everybody wants to get in top 10, right? So if you want to get in top 10, like I said, we have to train. Okay, every single day you have to train. And the only way that we're going to get there is through violent volume. Is one poem enough? What do you guys think? If you want to get in the top 10 selective school, is one poem enough? Is just going through like some poetry like 2 weeks out of a term enough? Yes or no? What do you guys reckon? A for yes, it's enough. B for no, Steve, it's definitely not enough. Okay, so obviously it's not enough, right? You guys all know that, right? So I'm going to teach you guys how to use all the apps to train. Okay, and we're going to go through that at the end of class. Okay, anyway, let's jump into these questions right now. The phrase with hands in pockets most strongly serves. So let's look at the stem here. When it says serves, what kind of question do we have here? I'm looking for a word starting with P. Okay, P-U, what is it? Okay, P-U-R-P. Come on, guys. It's a purpose question. Okay, everybody write that down. It's a purpose question, okay? So it's asking you, what is the intention of having the words with hands in pockets? Now what we want to do is we want to go through a process of elimination, okay? Now, with hands in pockets, is this positive or negative? Overall, I'd say it's pretty positive, okay? So we don't want to use anything that's too negative, okay? And we also want to avoid things that are too literal in meaning. So let's go through the options. First one says, it suggests that the birds are cold and conserving heat. Is that true? Yes or no? What do you guys reckon? No, obviously not. This is wrong. Okay, this is completely wrong. Personify magpies as casual walkers. So casual is good because casual is nonchalant, hinting at urbane competence. What does urbane mean? Comment down below, guys. Where does the word urban come from? Urban comes from city. Urbane just means courteous and refined, just like you would come from a city, right? So in other words, like not rustic and countryside-like. Okay. Right. So we're going to open up polls in a second. Don't worry, guys. We're going to open up polls in a second. But right now, the answer is B. Everybody clear? The birds are injured. No, that's wrong. Okay. Because that is negative and that's not true. Contrast magpies with gentlemen who refuse to walk. Okay. That's not true because they're actually walking. It's not like they're refusing to walk. And also the word contrast is wrong here. What does the word contrast mean? Similar or different? Okay. A for similar, B for different. What is it? 3, 2, 1. Okay, it's obviously different. All right, guys? What we're going to do now is let's go through the second question. I'm going to open up polls, and I want you guys to tell me what the answer is, okay? 3, 2, 1. All righty. Okay, some of you guys saying A. In their well-fitted black and white, a formal suit reinforcing the gentlemanly comparison. That seems pretty good. A disguise is wrong, okay? Right? Disguise means that they're trying to trick or they're trying to hide, and that's not true at all. A drab uniform that hides their vanity. Okay, let's break down. What does the word vanity mean? Vanity means self-interest. Everybody write that down. Vanity, in this case, is a negative word. Everybody write that down. Vanity means self-interest, okay? So if you're doing things because you are vain, you're doing things in your self-interest. What is an example of vanity? Anybody know? What is an example of vanity? So an example of vanity would be if you're wearing like a tuxedo just to be prideful, okay? But typically in this case, it's not a drab uniform to hide their vanity. Okay, that's definitely not true. Camouflage is also wrong because they're not timid. Okay, they're actually very, very confident. Timid means the opposite of confidence. So the answer in this case is obviously A. Excellent work to everybody who got that. Question number 3, the shift from nonchalant and wise to what clashing beaks, what greedy eyes chiefly represents. Okay, let's start a poll. 3, 2, 1, let's go. Okay, so a lot of you guys saying B. Let's go through this together. So if everybody said B, we'll analyze B and C, okay? So a comic undercutting of dignified appearances by instinct at feeding. Comic undercutting, what does that mean? Comic means funny. Undercutting means kind of making fun of, Okay, right? So demeaning or immediately kind of like slicing somebody under their legs, if you will, right? So a comic undercutting of dignified appearances. And that's true, right? So it goes from nonchalant and wise, which is a dignified appearance, to suddenly them kind of very funny, chaotic scene when they have food, right? When they see food. So B is true, right? I would give a tick for a comic undercutting. Dignified appearance. Dignified just means like, like well-dressed kind of appearance in this case, like a suit. By instinct, that feeding, which is like kind of unconscious, right? Here it says evidence that magpies are predators of large animals. So in this case, when it says clashing beaks, they're just fighting with each other, okay? Predators means they're actually eating other animals, which there is no evidence of right now. Okay, so that's why it can't be C. Okay, the moral that elegance and appetite cannot coexist. This doesn't really make sense because there is no moral lesson here. There's no lesson. This is just an observation, if that makes sense. So there's no real moral there. And it's not true because it might actually exist with other people, right? So other people might be able to eat very elegantly just because, the magpie can't is not evidence that every single creature can't. Have those two. Okay, question number 4. Let's go through that. 3, 2, 1. Okay, so a lot of you guys saying B, a lot of you guys saying C. So let's have a look at B and C. So here it says social polish that masks competitive self-interest. So certain gentlemen, in comparing magpies to certain gentlemen, the poem most likely critiques. Critiques is obviously you're pointing something negative, right? You're making a negative point. Scholars who refuse to eat at banquets. We're not really trying to criticize scholars, okay? We're trying to criticize that the magpies, their social polish is not real. You guys get that? So they seem to be dignified. They seem to be controlled on the outside, but it's basically saying that this is all fake. Does that make sense? It's not real. It's all fake. It's all pretend. It's all for show because in the moment where, they actually have food there, it just completely, that mask falls apart. You guys see that? So we have to think about the context of the words here. I want everybody to concentrate. This is very, very important. Social polish, is this a positive or a negative word? If we think about the connotation, right? Does it have a positive or a negative connotation? So A for positive, B for negative. Let's quickly start a poll. 3, 2, 1. Okay. So extraordinary work, guys. You guys are all right. So yes, indeed, it is negative, right? So social polish in this instance is negative. Let's write this down. Why is it negative, or why does it have negative connotations? Because it's saying that social polish is like a facade. Polish, we have the idea that it is a facade and that it's not real, okay? It's on the top, right? So there's no substance to it. You guys understand what I mean? So polish is almost like what you put on like the veneer, or what you put on like doors, right? Or cars, like polish or nail polish. And basically, when it says social polish, it just means that it's not part of the real fabric, of magpies. Okay, everybody clear? And then obviously it says that masks competitive self-interest. So what really is going in on the inside is that competitive self-interest, right? In other words, their hunger. Okay, so excellent work to everybody who got that. Scholars who refuse to eat at banquets, it's not really making fun of scholars. Okay, it's not actually criticizing scholars, it's criticizing the magpies. Okay, and now what is it also saying about these gentlemen? Are these gentlemen real or fake? So A for real, B for fake. 3, 2, 1. Okay, so obviously it's fake. Yeah, okay. Let's move on to the next one. The claim that not one man, and by the way, before I continue, critique is very, very important. So you will often find that some poems will criticize war. Has anybody seen that kind of poetry? So poems that criticize war, where they kind of point out the hypocrisy of war. People don't really understand why they're getting sent to war and things like that. So oftentimes, when you see the word critique, it's usually done through humor or through mockery by comparing something to something else. Okay, all right. Okay. Now let's move on. Question number 5. The claim, not one man that I've heard throws back his head in such a song, um, suggests what? So let's quickly open up polls. 3, 2, 1. Okay, so everybody got A, you guys got it correct. Possess the joy humans rarely match in spontaneity and fullness. And that's true, right? So obviously the magpies are something that is very unique. Spontaneity just means fun, okay? It also just means when something is happening on the whim. So it's unplanned. When you take a spontaneous trip, it's like going through McDonald's drive-through, okay? It's like, when your dad doesn't know where else to take you, he takes you to McDonald's drive-through. Anybody's dad has done that before, yes or no? So A for yes, B for no, right? That's spontaneous. Okay, everybody clear.